Thank you for joining me in this series of videos on the methodology of understanding Gurbani by yourself and for yourself. In our previous 4 videos, we have looked at as many principles. The first was getting from the literal to the spiritual. The second was the Rahao principle. And the third principle we looked at was context. In our last video, we looked at the principle of spirituality of the self. What it meant was that the messages of Gurbani apply for me, that I was the intended target of the messages within Gurbani, and Gurbani wasn't meant for persons or situations out there. The links to these 4 previous videos are provided in the description below. In today's video, we will look at the 5th principle, realizing the Creator within. What do we mean by this, and how do we apply this? These are the questions we will be looking at in this video. I want to begin by saying that this principle needs to be understood in terms of the objective of Guru Nanak's Sikhi. The objective of spirituality in Guru Nanak's philosophy pertaining to the Creator is a realization of the Creator within. This means when we attempt to understand Gurbani for ourselves, we need to know that the overall goal, the overall objective of Sikhi is to realize the Creator within. We will first need to understand the 2 primary concepts here in accordance with Gurbani. We need to understand the Creator, God, Lord, whatever term you want to use. We need to understand what Guru Nanak meant by it, how Guru Nanak understood it, and this understanding must come from within Gurbani, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and not Sakhis or other literature that is outside of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Second, we need to understand what realization is. Again, according to Guru Nanak, I will submit to all of you viewers that the notion of realization of the Creator within stands as Guru Nanak's most revolutionary and innovative contribution to spirituality. What was revolutionary was first, his definition of what his God was, and 2, the notion that his God was the function of realization. All of you would have an understanding of God or what God is, according to Sikhi. All of you would also have an understanding of what you needed to do with God, according to Sikhi again. So, after we have understood Guru Nanak's definition of God, you can then decide if you had Guru Nanak's revolutionary and innovative understanding or were holding on to something else. So let's begin with the God of Guru Nanak or the God of Sikhi. We will need to begin with what the God of Guru Nanak or the God of Sikhi is not. When Guru Nanak came in 1469, there already existed a notion of God in the minds of the people. This pre-existing God was a powerful, human-like entity sitting up in the heavens and one who micromanaged the affairs of creation. This God was to be feared. He was something to be afraid of. He dished out punishments such as sorrow, pain, epidemics, and natural disasters. he could be appeased through intermediaries. He made sure nothing happened without his express will. Such a God had to be searched, found, discovered, meditated upon through the process of what was defined as religious worship. This worship varied from repeated calling out of his name or chanting to other elaborate and intricate rituals such as daily and repeated recitations of selected prayers or texts. This then was the basic purpose of religion: to avoid the wrath of God, appease Him abundantly in the hope of avoiding suffering and ensuring a place in heaven. The outcome was the construction and proliferation of doctrines obsessed with life after death. This is what we call the clergy concocted notion of God. The clergy created Him, defined Him, and told us we needed this God. They told us that we needed to find this God, pray to Him, beg of Him, please Him, think of Him all the time, call out His name repeatedly, and not ever upset Him. And the clergy appointed themselves middlemen and agents of this God. The reason the clergy concocted and subscribed to this kind of God was simple. He could place himself squarely within each of the above mentioned functions of God. He could inject himself in all the characteristics of his God. He was the agent of his God. He was the middleman. He knew how to handle his God, how to control this God, how to manipulate this God. He knew what to do with this God on your behalf. So now is the time for us to ask ourselves if this is indeed our understanding of God, a powerful, all-knowing, all-controlling entity setting up in the heavens, micromanaging creation, dishing out calamities, giving us our joys upon praying to Him, and giving us sorrows if we did not. The reality is that this is the God that was rejected by Guru Nanak, tossed out of the spirituality of Sikhi. But this is the very God that has been picked up and placed back on the pedestal of Sikhi by our clergy and all those who controlled the institutions and psyche of Sikhi. And Sikhs have accepted this sort of God as the God of Sikhi, hook, line, and sinker, lock, stock, and barrel. If you look around, you will notice that this is the God that has survived intact in Sikhi on account of our own clergy. This is also the God that sits in Gurbani translations and interpretations that are tainted with Vedantic, Puranic, and yogic slants. Let me quote one paragraph from my book, The Hijacking of Sikhi. The religious Sikh of today looks up to the heavens for a praise-thirsty God sitting up there. Praise to that God for miracles, to resolve his worldly affairs, and makes offerings to please that God. The religious Sikh begs, pleads, and implores this God, plants his forehead at the imagined feet of this God, and rubs his nose on the ground as his act of the highest order of worship of this God, and lives in continuous fear of the wrath of this God. So, when the Sikh comes across the Gurbani verse, Aukhi kadi na dekhan dei, apna bird samal, meaning, Do not let me ever see 1 minute of pain and sorrow. The God that comes into the mind of the Sikh is the God that is setting up in the heavens. When a Sikh hears the verse, Jo mange thakar apne te, soi soi deva, then the God that comes into the mind of the Sikh is this same God, the one that micromanages the affairs of creation, gives and takes away things. When we ask our clergy to do our ardas, which is basically a pleading to improve our lives through continuous asking, begging, praying, and calling out of God, the God that we think we are dealing with is the same God, the one that is appeased through intermediaries. We think our granthis, ragis, kirtaniyas, pathis, pabe, etc. are intermediaries, middlemen or agents of that God. We pay them and make offerings through them to this God. When we talk about the objective of our spirituality, we are talking again of this God who is waiting for me at the other end and is expected to ensure a good afterlife for me. So, for the believing Sikh, the Gurdwara going Sikh, the pious Sikh of today, the Gurbani reading Sikh, his God is still the God of the clergy. The issue that is of concern to us in our quest to understand Gurbani through translations, tikas, etc. is simply this. This is the same very God that sits in our translations, the one that was rejected by Guru Nanak. The primary reasons why most of our translators have kept such a God intact within their interpretations is the failure to recognize two things. One, failure to recognize the revolutionary redefining of all pre-existing spiritual concepts, including the concept of God by Guru Nanak. And two, failure to recognize the innovative introduction of the notion of God of Guru Nanak, the God of Sikhi. So let's try to understand Guru Nanak's notion of God, which is symbolized by this graphic that was crafted by Guru Nanak himself. We will also try to understand the related questions such as where is this God located and what is the objective of spirituality with regards to this creator. If we are not supposed to find, discover, or locate him, then what exactly are we supposed to do? Most Sikhs understand this symbol to mean that there is one God. God is one. And that Sikhi is therefore a monotheistic spirituality. And that is probably because we have put a lot of emphasis on just one aspect of this illustration, this numerical acre on the left. But there is also this part of the illustration, the second part, the open ura, the part that's often missed, but is equally, if not more important. When we look at what is illustrated in the graphic in totality as a whole, then what we get is not one, but oneness. The symbol taken as a whole represents the becoming of one, the becoming of one within everything. Taken as a whole, the symbol tells us of the one being extended into everything. It tells us of the one becoming all. Taking all the above into consideration, the graphic of Guru Nanak represents the one creator within creation. The graphic represents the one creator extended to become creation. As Gurbani says on page 803 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Ek Roop Saglo Pasara, one form extended into everything. It's clear, therefore, Pyareo, that Guru Nanak's depiction of the Creator or Guru Nanak's rendering of the Creator was that creation was the manifest extension of the Creator. The first part of the symbol Ek, depicted as the numerical 1, represents the oneness and unity of both the Creator and His creation. The second part of the symbol, the open Ura, represents the manifest extension of the Creator into creation. The open Ura represents the Creator flowing onto and extending into His creation to become one. Seen from left to right, the one Creator extends into the entirety of creation. Seen from right to left, the entirety of creation is the abode of the one Creator. This then, Pyareo, is the practical meaning of this symbol of Guru Nanak to represent God. It tells us that the Creator and His creation are equal, one and the same. Consequently, in Sikhi, there is no concept of a God out there, no concept of a God up there. We don't have a concept of a God who is distinct or separate from His creation, one who sits up there and while creation is, well, down here. Guru Nanak's concept of the Creator is that the Creator is within His creation. This is a verse of Guru Nanak on page 469 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Balhari Kudrat Vasya, Tera Antana Jahi Lakhya Rahao. Vasya is to reside. Kudrat refers to nature, to creation. Kudrat Vasya means the one who resides within his creation. The meaning of the verse is Guru Nanak pays obeisance, Balhari, to a Creator who resides within creation, Kudrat Vasya. Here is another verse, also of Guru Nanak, from a paudi on page 464 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Apine aap sajiyo, apine rachiyo nao. Doi kudrat sajiye, kar asan ditho chao. Data karta aap tu, tus deve kare pasao. Verse 1, apine aap sajiyo, apine rachiyo nao means the Creator created the law of nature. Apine rachiyo nao. Now comes from the word nayam, order, structure, rule and law. Verse 2, Dui kudrat sajiye kar asan ditho chao means He exists within His creation. The words kar asan depict such a situation. Verse 3, Data karta aap tu, tus deve kare pasao. The words kare pasao mean extended into. Pasao comes from the word pasara, which means extended. So the meaning of the verse is you, O Creator, are extended into creation. In summary then, Pyareo, 4 things are made clear by Guru Nanak in this body. 1. Creation is all an extension of you, O Creator. 2. Creation is a manifestation of you. 3. You extended yourself into creation. And finally, that you manifested yourself into creation. Here is a third verse of Guru Nanak. This is from a Shabad on page 83 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Slok Mahalla Pehla. Kudrat karke वसिया सोए, वक्त विचारे सो बंदा होए. Vasya soe means the creator resides within his creation. Vakta vichare means the premise of spirituality is to recognize this reality. So banda hoye means recognizing this premise is to recognize humanity. Banda hoye. This is the next couplet of the same Shabad. Kudrat hai, कीमत नहीं पाए, जहाँ कीमत पाए ता कहीं ना जाए. Meaning, creation is beyond value and beyond narration. Why is that so, प्यारियों? Because the creator himself is beyond value and beyond narration. And because the creator, who is beyond value, resides within his creation thus becomes beyond value as well. The next few verses of this same Shabada as follows. Sadak kar sajda, man kar maqsood, jahan ter dekha, tahan ter mawjood. Man kar maqsood means, O mind, make this my objective. Maqsood is objective. What objective? Jahan ter dekha, tahan ter mawjood. Meaning that I see the Creator within everything and within everyone. Guru Arjan Patsha says on page 1381 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Mahalla Panjama, Farida Khalak Khalak mein, Khalak Vasa Rabb maa hai, Banda kisno aakhi hai, ja tis bin koi na hai. Farida Khalak Khalak mein. Khalak is the creator. Khalq is creation. Khalq refers to people within creation, human beings, each and every one of us. Khalqat. Guru Arjan is saying, Farid, the creator is within his creation, and within his creation is where he is realized. Manda kisno aakhiye, which part of creation can I deem bad when there is none without him within? Kabir makes the same point on page 134 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, using the same terms, Khalak and Khalak. He says, Loga parmana pulo pai, Khalak, Khalak, Khalak mein Khalak, pur raheo sarb time. He is saying, the Creator is within creation in the total and absolute sense. Anything to the contrary is simply an illusion. Parmana pulo pahi. This means if we cannot see God in all of His creation, we cannot see Him at all. That's because the Creator resides within His creation. The critical consequence of all the above to my spirituality is that the Creator exists within me. He will thus have to be realized within. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji has this Shabad on page 684 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Tanasri Mahalla Nauma. Kahe re ban khojan jai. Ban refers to the wilderness outside, and khojan jai is to go in search of, meaning, O mind, kahe re, why search the Creator outside in the wilderness? Ban khojan jai. The next verse is Sarb Nivasi Sada Alepa Tohi Sang Samai. He resides in all. Sarb Nivasi. He resides within you. Tohi Sang Samai. In the next two verses, Guruji provides two illustrations to allow us to appreciate the notion that the Creator resides within us. Pohop mad jyo baas basat hai. Just like fragrance resides within a flower, mukkar mahe jaise chai, and just like an image within a mirror, तैसे ही हर बसै निरंतर घट ही खोजो पाई. Similarly, He, the Creator, resides within us, and that is where we will realize Him. Ghat hi khojo pai. So let's summarize Guru Nanak's notion of God. We can distill all we have said above as follows. The God of Guru Nanak is not separate from creation. He is extended into creation. He is extended into creation as the law of nature for creation, Hukam. The God of Sikhi is located within creation, within humanity, and within me. The above notion of God, then, is the basis for our principle under discussion in this video, realizing the Creator within. That the Creator is within me is Guru Nanak's foundational principle for Sikhi. He has actually presented this concept right within a set of verses that practically every Sikh knows, has heard from childhood, but something we have never quite understood for ourselves. These are the verses. Aad Sacha, Jugad Sacha, Hai Pi Sacha, Nanak Hosi Pi Sacha. We had all understood these verses as something else. That was because we understood God as something else, sitting up there, out there, micromanaging, dishing out calamities and disasters, etc. This is how we understood, or rather misunderstood, this slok. True in the primal beginning, true throughout the ages, true here and now, O Nanak, forever and ever true. This was the other common mistranslation. He was the creator in the primal beginning. He was the creator throughout the ages. He is the creator here and now. O Nanak, He is forever and ever the creator. There are two problems with such translations. One, they referred to a God that was sitting up there, out there, from the beginning, etc. The translation still spoke of a God external to His creation that Guru Nanak had rejected. The second problem was that concepts of time, such as the beginning, throughout the ages, here and now, forever, etc., are all man-made concepts. They cannot and should not be applied to the Creator. The Creator cannot have a beginning or a primal beginning even, because if we accept such, then we will have to ask the question as to what was there before the beginning. Now, the truth of the matter is that these concepts of time, beginning, here, now, forever, etc., are applicable for the human. So, let's look at the slok again and examine the individual words within it. Ad, with a sihari, means from conception. Beginning. Sacha refers to Akal Purukh, the Creator. Jugad means following Ad, following conception. Happy, here and now. Hosi, throughout existence. This is the translation that we arrive at. The Creator is within me from my Ad, from my conception. He is within me since conception, following conception. He is within me here and now, Nanak. He is within me throughout my existence. Here is a verse from page 102 of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Sab kich kar mein, bahar nahi. Bahar tole, so parma pulahi. Gur prasadi, jini antar paya, so antar bahar sohela jio. Karma means he's within the mind, within the conscience. Bahar tolla so parampalahi means seeking him outside is a delusion and an illusion. Gurprasadi means with the enlightenment of the Shabda Guru, Antarpaya realized the Creator within. Sohela Jio means ultimate bliss, eternal joy, Ananda and Kheda. In essence then, the sloka Aad Sach Jugad Sacha, Happy Sach Nanak Hosi Pi Sach is telling us two things. One, the Creator is within me. Two, He is within me from my birth till my death. So when something is within, then there is no such thing as finding, meeting, pleasing, fearing, praying to, asking and begging, etc. The only thing to do is realizing him within. This slok is the Gurbani basis of the principle we are discussing today. Realizing the Creator within. The Creator is within myself. The ultimate goal of spirituality of Guru Nanak is that realization. The word of realization is japa. That realization will happen within myself, within my mind, within my senses, and within my conscience. Why do we need realization? Because realization has a flow chart. It flows into spirituality. It flows into divinity. This is the flow chart. Realization of the divine within, number one in the chart, leads to a relationship with the divine. Number two in the chart, an inner relationship, a relationship at the conscience level, a relationship at the level of consciousness, a relationship of inner contemplation. That relationship needs a roadmap, a manual, a guide. Number three in the chart. And that roadmap is Gurbani. This is where the ability to read that roadmap and understand it for ourselves comes into play. The starting point of Sikhi, the beginning point of spirituality is realization. Let me say this in Punjabi. ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਕਰਤੇ ਨੂੰ ਅਨੁਭਵ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜਾਪਣਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਕਰਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਕਾਇਮ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਮਾਨਸਿਕ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ, ਰੂਹਾਨੀ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ, ਜ਼ਮੀਰਕ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ। ਸਿੱਖੀ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਹੈ, ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਰਸਤਾ ਹੈ। ਰਾਹਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਰਸਤੇ ਦੀ ਸਮਝ ਹੋਵੇ, ਰਸਤੇ ਦੀ ਪਛਾਣ ਹੋਵੇ। ਇਸ ਲਈ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਦੀ ਸਮਝ ਲਾਜ਼ਮੀ ਹੈ, ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਗੱਲ ਅਨੁਭਵ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ। So this is why our fifth principle is of realizing the Creator within. We need to keep this principle in mind when we try to understand Gurbani for ourselves. If each time we come across the word Rabb, Karta, Kartar, Akal Purkh, Prabhu, Parmeshwar, etc., and we start thinking in terms of the God sitting up there and out there, that is concocted by the clergy, we are never going to get to the intended messages of Gurbani. We need to understand God in the way Guru Nanak conceptualized it. And we further need to understand that when Gurbani talks about what we need to do in terms of God, each time we come across an action verb relating to God and we start thinking in terms of praying to Him, pleading with Him, begging Him, calling out His name repeatedly, etc., we are not going to get to the intended instructions and messages and counsel of Gurbani. each time we come across an action verb relating to God, we need to know that Gurbani is saying, realize Him within. And we need to bring about this realization within us in the here and the now. Thank you, Pyareo, for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. We will look at the sixth principle of our methodology, namely the spirituality of the here and the now.